Hello everybody, this is Danny from Deep South Homestead here today. We've had the tractor now a few days. We've been able to use it some, and what we'd like to do is maybe do a little bit of a review on it. We've got some things that we like and some things that we don't like about it. So let's first off start off talking about some of the things we've learned about this tractor that we really like, because I've owned tractors my whole life, and of course, they've been a lot larger tractors than this, but I see things about this one that the old ones don't have that I really, really like. Now, first off, is going to be the pin system that's in everything here. When you get ready, if you need to take these buckets off, you got these quick hitch pins right here. They just pop in there. You can take the pins right out of this thing in no time, which a lot of them used to have roll pins in them you had to drive out. I like this concept a lot better. Every pin has a grease fitting in the end of the pin here, rather than being up on the top side of the pin up here, because a lot of times they're up here on the top sides where they get full of dirt, or a limb will hit them and break them off, or one side of the pin gets grease and one side of it don't. So I like that the grease fittings is in the end of the pin. Now, on a lot of these quick hitch receiver systems here, these things get froze up. My neighbor has the same tractor as this. It's just a little bit larger size. The levers on it are cast iron, and he's already broke them off because the pin gets froze up in the bottom when he's trying to release it up and down. But what I like about the new ones is around here on the sides, right here, they put a grease fitting right here. You can now grease the thing that slides up and down in there, the pin that locks the bucket on the front of it. That is something new the man at the tractor place told me that they had put on them. A lot of the other tractors I look at has a pipe right here in the front welded on it, and you slide a pipe out of the end right here and stick it in for a leg to hold the bucket system when you release it from the tractor. This one has a leg system now that lets down underneath this tractor here, and it's got a foot pedal on it that you've got one on both sides of the tractor. Now, I really like that. That makes this thing a whole lot easier and a whole lot more stable when you've got a leg on both sides rather than one in the middle. Another thing I like about this one is right down in here, it has a saddle that the pin sits in down in here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. There's a saddle in there that this thing sits down in. When you get ready to disconnect this thing from the tractor, all you have to do is pull a keeper out the back side, and this pin right here that moves so freely just slips right out of this thing. You take the hoses and push down on the bucket, and it picks these arms up, and you slide them away. There's 4 quick connects right here. Every one of the quick connects is color coded. It has a thing here that you pull off. You can stick one in the end of the line and stick one on the other line. Keeps dirt from getting in them. I really like that about this one. I like that the hoses are not just open. They have a cover around them so that the limbs don't grab them and jerk them all around. I've noticed on this one that the lines has a steel plate. Me and my neighbor was talking about this. His tractor doesn't have this. His just had the steel lines exposed behind the boom. This one has a cover over them, and I really like that on it. Another thing I like is this is the front axle here. It has these caps you pull out, and you unscrew them and pull them out, and there's a little dipstick in there. It tells you the level of the oil in the front end. I've looked at other tractors that did not have this. I really like that on it. This leveling rod system here, this is another thing that my neighbor saw on his that his didn't have, and he really liked that. He's thinking about getting one to go on his tractor, or making one, because he doesn't have one on it. So that when the rod gets up level with this end here, you know your bucket is tilted at the right level on the ground for digging and pushing or grading. I didn't see this on every tractor that I looked at. So we like that about it. One of the other things we like about this tractor is it has a PTO right here underneath the tractor. is for a belly mower system to go under the tractor. I can use a belly mower system, or it has a PTO coming out the back. I can use a bush hog on it, so it's multifunctional. I can go either way with it. That's another thing we like.
Okay, some of the things I like, you have a step up right here, and it's low to the ground, easy to get into. The seat is very comfortable. It has a cup holder, and everything is pretty just compact. It's where easy to get to, and it steers really well. Here it shows fast and slow, easy, just push it up or down. Here, forward or backwards. The only problem I have is remembering that I'm on backwards when I need to go forward, or forward when I need to go backwards. That's just one issue I have because I'm not used to having two pedals. I like the overall size. It's not too overwhelming for me. It's I drove one of the bigger tractors, and it drove well. It was easy to handle. It just sometimes something really big feels kind of overwhelming. So this one, I can just take my time and do what I need to do and learn how to operate a tractor. And maybe in the future, we might have a bigger tractor, but this one is a great tractor to learn on.
This is the four-wheel drive and two-wheel drive system here. It's real easy to shift in and out of four-wheel drive and two-wheel drive. This is your low range, your neutral, and your high. Now, when you're in four-wheel drive here, you don't want to have it in high range in four-wheel drive because your front tires are little, your back tires are big, and it puts a real big strain on the system because you've got two different size tires. So you want to use four-wheel drive in low range only on this tractor. That's one of the things we've learned about it.
Okay, when you turn it to the left here, okay, can you see the orange thing? That's your glow plug, and it went off, and then you can crank it. Okay, the one thing that I dislike, but I guess I'll get used to, is I have to learn forward and backwards instead of just forward and let off, or changing gears to change it from forward to backwards. That's something I'm getting used to know if I need to go forward or backwards. Another thing is the joystick. When Danny says up, meaning the bucket goes up, you go down. When he says go down with the bucket, I'm to go up with the stick. So every time he says up, this is what I do. When he says down, this is what I do. I forget that you have to interchange them. Up means down, down means up. It's a work in progress.
Okay, now let's talk about some of the things I've learned that I don't like about it. One is this lever right here. I'm going to rebuild this lever. I'm going to take this one out and go to town, buy me a rod, rethread it. I'm going to bring it out and turn a handle up on the end of it out here because this is the most uncomfortable thing. It's hard on your shoulders. You're constantly having to lean forward to work this, and it's rough on your back. So I'm going to change this rod. That's the first thing that I found that I don't like about it. Secondly, it's a small tractor. It is rough as riding a wagon down the road with square wheels on it. I mean, it's that rough. It will beat you to death because it's so small. I'm used to riding bigger tractors that kind of flow smoothly. This one, every little bump is rigid. It hits hard. And because I've had the neck injury that I had this past year, I'm only going to be able to use it very limited amounts because I used it this morning, and after probably about an hour of using it, my neck started hurting real bad back here where I've damaged it at. So I've learned real quick, like, because of the roughness of this tractor and how it bangs and beats real hard, because the hydraulics are so fast on it, nothing flows slow and smooth. And I know people will say, well, you can feather it with the lever and all this kind of stuff. I've run heavy equipment my whole life. When you sit and start feathering equipment with levers, you heat these pumps up really, really hot because you're not letting the oil flow through them very fast. And the pumps will eventually fail you a lot faster than they will if you'll just go ahead and pull the lever over or pull it up or push it down. You don't just gradually do something. That's rough on the spools and the O-rings and stuff in here, is forcing the oil by them. That's another thing that I've learned about it, is just the roughness of it is something that I don't really care about. And we knew this going into it, that because it was a small tractor, when we put something in the bucket on the front, that it was going to make it light on the rear end. Right now I have a boom pole on the back of it. This boom pole, we're going to hook a heavy weight on the end of it. Back here with this chain, we're going to hang something heavy back here to kind of counterweight it, because the further back this way I come with a weight, the more I counterbalance the front on it. So that's another thing. One of the other things we learned that we're not really liking about this tractor is the turnbuckles right here are on the inside of the third arms. And it really makes it a little bit aggravating to fool with them. We're always used to them being on the outside here. They're out of the way. When you get ready to hook a PTO up on it, we noticed that it's really hard to get in here and turn these with the PTO right here. So that's another thing we've learned that we don't really like about it. And second, another thing is these arms will not let out wide enough for a lot of my equipment. Now, it'll fit some of my equipment, but there's a lot of it that it won't fit. So that's another thing that we're going to have to purchase some smaller equipment to go behind this tractor if we're going to use it for doing any kind of gardening. Just simply because the third arms just don't let out wide enough to hook up those pieces of equipment. Another thing we've noticed, when we lift this lift up with this particular piece of equipment on it, your turnbuckle here hits the back of the tractor and tries to bend it in. So we have to be really careful here and make sure we don't pick this up too high or it hits right here. Now that's another thing we've run into that we've noticed is a little bit of a problem on this tractor. One of the other things that we're going to be doing to this tractor, I'm used to bigger equipment, and I realize that going into it, but I've purchased some expanded metal. We're going to come in here and we're going to take this bumper system off here, and we're going to weld a piece of expanded metal over all this in here with a piece of channel iron across the top, angle iron across the top of it here. Because every tractor that I've looked at around us here, all my neighbors' tractors, all this is broke out of here, because when you're out doing something, a limb will come up through here and it just shatters all this in here, because this is all plastic now. Nothing's made out of metal anymore. So I'm going to be welding a piece of expanded metal on this and painting it back this color and trying to make it look like it, without making the tractor look too bad. I'm going to try to make it look pretty decent. Another thing we've got to looking at, they make a fiberglass canopy to go on top of this, and because we can't get out in the heat and work a lot, the sun really affects our bodies now that we've gotten older. We're going to be looking into purchasing one to go on the top of this tractor sometime in the future when we get kind of caught up with things. We've noticed they're not that expensive. I guess you'd say they're around $300 to $400. Not an expensive purchase, but we feel like it's something in the future we're going to need on this tractor to keep the sun off of us, since we have an issue with the sun now and our physical health. One of the other things we really like about it is you can fold the seat up and it gets it out of the way. The sun. Another thing about the canopy is it's going to keep the sun from bearing down on this hot seat and causing it to crack and dry rot and all that kind of stuff. We really like that aspect about maybe getting the canopy to go on it here in the near future. One of the other things I like about it is it has a piece of metal welded around the valve stem here. A lot of the tractors I looked at don't have this, because this way, if a limb or a bush or something comes up by here, it's not so apt to break the valve stems off of these tires, because they have these pieces welded around them here to protect the valve stems. That's another thing we really like about this tractor. One of the things, I'll be honest with y'all, I grew up operating a lot larger equipment, and this one here is going to do what we want it to do. It's just that it's a little bit of a learning curve for me. I've not been used to using hydrostats, I'll be honest with you. I learned after using it a whole day. This morning I got on it and I said, you know what, it's under warranty. Let me just kick this thing up and run the devil out of it. And I cranked it up this morning over yonder in the wood and ran it over in the woods and done some pushing with it. And I've learned that with the hydrostats, if you've got it running wide open, the engine's governed back so it's not going to run too fast, that it actually functions and pushes and does a lot better when you've got it running wide open than it does when you've just kind of maybe half throttle. It puts a strain on the hydraulic system with the hydrostats and the hydraulic system working, the boom and the loader and all. And I just learned today that running it wide open is where it needs to be done on this particular tractor.
And that means, just like you told me, you ain't gonna hurt it. Take it and go. And I'm gonna go. I like it because I can run it. I can stop it. I can start it. I'm fixing to go load some chicken feed. See you guys later. And I like being able to just take it to the back garden and check everything. this thing and I are going to get along just fine. Thank you from Deep South Homestead.